Hello and welcome everyone to yet another SSCAIT report. I'll be your host, Chobo Swaggins aka Jealous on Team Liquid, and today we'll return to our usual content, wherein we will be looking at some recommended replays from the SSCAIT Discord server, the link for which will be found in the description below. Hopefully you enjoyed this year's tournament, which ended a few weeks ago. Apologies for the delay in getting things back up and running, but with Nightcat on hiatus and me being preoccupied, this is the earliest that we could get things rolling. You can expect to see uploads from us at least every other Sunday going forward, but for now, let's jump into the games. So, immediately, one thing you'll notice about this game is that both players sent their probes forward. We have Yuan Heng Zhu sending, who spawned as the blue Protoss on the mid left of Python, sending their probe to Eggbot, who spawned at the bottom left of Python. And Eggbot's probe is chilling out here. Meanwhile, Yuan Zheng is scouting over here. So not entirely atypical for bots, given the fact that bots tend to scout early. It is, however, interesting that this probe does not decide to go forward, and this might be the explanation why we have a forward pylon. Now, there are several things that are possible to do here, and it's funny also that they built a pylon at home, maybe as a trick, so to say. But you can go forward gateways, you can go cannons to contain. Here we have what is clearly a forge from blue, and it seems that blue has the same idea, and then a forge from Eggbot as well. So what this is a double cannon rush. Definitely an unconventional strategy, something that you will almost never see at the pro level, or at least haven't in many years, but it does still happen at the lower levels. I'd be curious to know if Eggbot has any reaction to this, because now that the forge is done, maybe adding some cannons here would be advantageous, but instead the cannons are placed forward, definitely favoring Yuan Heng's placement here, because they are aggressive and already inside the main base. Now I forgot to lower this volume a little bit, so I'm going to do that now. Actually seems like I maybe should lower it a lot more. Yeah, so more and more cannons being placed. I'm not sure about the logic of these cannons because, frankly, yes, they cover the forward cannons, but that's not absolutely necessary, given the fact that your enemy has no army. And let's see what Eggbot's doing. Eggbot is also building a bunch of cannons, and including a gateway as well. So completely unconcerned about the state of the main base is Eggbot. And more and more cannons coming up for Yuan Heng, more and more stuff coming in from Eggbot, but not attacking the Nexus, crucially. I mean, adding a couple more cannons here would definitely be a good option. Now we're having our first Zealot from Eggbot, and given the fact that Yuan Heng has no defense of their own, and I think they haven't scouted these cannons yet, they're possibly in for a nasty surprise. So it's a question of who will make the first quote-unquote aggressive move here. Yuan Heng also adding a gateway here. Gonna speed it up just a little bit for now, until we get to the action. 2 gateways now actually for Yuan Heng. Definitely very well protected by the cannons behind. More Zealots coming out of Eggbot, but they're not being aggressive yet. Still no defenses for Yuan Heng. So yeah, again, it's still a race. First Zealot is out here. Gotta sneeze. Shouldn't have said anything, but the Zealots do come in from Teal to try to defend the main base, but unfortunately they get eaten up by the cannons. No attack yet from Eggbot going forward, and looks like another pylon here. The main base has been completely eradicated. There's only 1 probe left alive, but 700 minerals, notably for Eggbot. So now Yuan Heng seems to be trying to move forward as well, but that pylon is not long for this world. More cannons being placed now defensively by Yuan Heng here, and now all of these Zealots are going to start moving forward, but the Zealots from Eggbot are moving forward as well. Looks like Yuan Heng is on regular move though. The Zealots are going to take a lot of damage from these cannons. Yes, some of the Zealots are going to survive, but there is no Nexus coming up from Eggbot, and Eggbot is getting dangerously close to the amount of minerals that would basically guarantee that they're out of this game. Yuan Heng in the meantime has not opted to expand yet, just adding more and more cannons here. Cannons of course being very strong. The Zealots have been again wasted on the cannons here, and yeah, I guess it now becomes a waiting game to see what happens next, because we have Eggbot now having spent all their money, and it's going to we're gonna see if Yuan Heng is going to be capable of taking this base out. Definitely a case of a little bit of potato going on here. Zealots coming all the way from back here, and it seems like they're just walking straight through the cannons. Yes, so could be a draw, question mark. Uh, Going to be interesting to see what happens here. I'm going to speed it up even more then, because we're not making very much progress here. Individual probes getting sniped by the cannons, and I believe there's a time limit of like an hour, so it's going to be interesting to see if anyone actually wins this match. Um, uh, Definite potato moment here. Mismatch maybe. No logic applied to prevent this from happening. No expansion for this AI. There's actually only a couple of probes now, and they're all being sent forward one by one. 1,000 minerals in the bank though, so not completely broke. Still mining a little bit, but it seems like money is going down gradually for Yuan Heng. I'm interested to see if they will ever consistently continue gathering minerals. Seems like there's some sort of pattern here where one probe works for a while, one probe gets sent, then the second probe comes out and they go together. Nope, okay, that one just went. And it's just probes going into the slaughter here. 350 minerals, 300 minerals. Uh-oh. I think we might be here for a while, to be honest with you. If this is going to be a stalemate, I am going to end the replay, but it's just funny to see how a situation like this can arise. No more production. Oh, okay, well, pylon produced, and no more workers for Yuan Heng. Eggbot, however, has 4 zealots, 1 probe, and therefore we have a legitimate stalemate. And stalemates like this do happen in the pro scene. There have been a few games where it's been like a couple Dark Templar and a bunch of cannons, and then the other person also has a couple of Dark Templar and a bunch of cannons, and neither player has enough to kill the other person's cannons and Dark Templar. Yeah, interesting to see it here in the AI world. A very funny game, but let's move on to the next one. The next one, we have Krasio facing off against human opponents once again, and I am going to lower this back down again. We have Krasio spawning in the top left of Andromeda as the purple Terran, and in the top right we have Schnail, the anonymous human player from the Schnail server, link for which you can find in the description below. Schnail is a service. In case you don't know, it's a service where you can play against a lot of the AI you see in the SSCAIT broadcasts. In the past year or two, it's become kind of more popular with Korean players, actually, which is really cool to see that they discovered it and they started using it for practice and stuff. Whenever the server goes down temporarily, a bunch of Korean people join the Discord and start asking what happened. But anyway, we have Krasio going out with a relatively early scout, going to be checking the middle, possibly checking for gateways. Proxy gateways, not that common on this map, I believe, simply because of the long rush distances and the fact that walling off is pretty easy on all of the various spawn locations. And in this case, the human went for a 12 Nexus, it seems, followed up by a gateway and a gas at 13. Very macro-oriented, but fairly standard play. Meanwhile, Krasio, unfortunately, is going to find his opponent last, or its opponent last, having scouted from middle to bottom left to bottom right to now going to top right. And this is one of those moments that is just super painful if you're a Terran player. When you get to the Protoss base and you see that they're already on 2 bases, the Nexus is already up, it kind of makes any sort of timing attack incredibly difficult to pull off, simply because of the fact that you haven't been sending SCVs and Marines forward to bunker rush. You do have the option of going Marines and Vulture forward, which is an option, and bring SCVs as well to take down the Nexus. But it seems that Krasio is content to go for a bunker expand, which is, again, a fairly modern and standard build. Definitely economically disadvantaged against this fast expansion build, but Krasio has located the opponent. The opponent did add 1 Zealot before transitioning into Dragoons, and Krasio, playing as safe as ever, is going to be adding a very early ComSat station here, 26 supply. I believe the standard timing is usually around like 40-45 or so for the Academy, in terms of supply at least, but And it's also interesting because Krasio did scout the main base of the Protoss player, and you can't really get DTs out all that quickly after a 12 Nexus. So perhaps a little too conservative is Krasio in this position. But outside of that, the game is progressing quite normally. We do have a Citadel of Adun fairly early. This might be a 2-base arbiter timing. We have an observatory as well. Normally you wouldn't see an observatory if you're going DT drop, so that's why I'm assuming that it's going to be a 2-base arbiter play. Only one gateway, which is very conservative, and technically it is 3-base, but because of the fact that Andromeda has that free high ground base, although maybe not super free because siege tanks can shoot from down here, we do have a very macro-oriented play, at least. And trapped the gateway here. Trapped behind the gateway is the Dragoon here. And should be noted that this human player is quite fast. I mean, as I say that, their APM went down a bit, but definitely a competent player. Engineering Bay is scouting the opponent now from Krasio, is going to notice that there is +1 ground spinning, so most likely no carriers here, although it could, I guess, maybe be the plasma shields upgrade, but nothing of that nature yet. It actually just seems to be very heavy ground army play from the Protoss player. No arbiter or carrier tech yet. Army is incredibly small for this point in the game. I mean, at 8 minutes into the game on 3 bases with only 20 army supply, it's very limited, but perhaps abusing the fact that Krasio itself is very lax in production. Only 3 factories. Definitely could have seen maybe a 5-factory timing push at this point. Unfortunate depot placement here potentially. I'm going to leave that screen because those siege tanks are going to give me a headache. But yeah, so basically both players seem so far just content to macro up on their side of the map, though Krasio is checking for expansions. Would have liked to maybe see a mine being placed there to prevent this expansion from happening. 2 probes and a Dragoon going forward, actually. And a pylon wall off. I'm not sure if that pylon wall off is actually tight, so interesting choice there. Normally I think you see it like here, but yeah, maybe it is tight. Anyway, 4th base now coming up, and mines in front. Lots of mines all over the map, actually. Also protecting their own potential 4th base here, but the observers have been keeping tabs on all of the progress being made by the AI here. Observer over here is nicely placed as well, but now Krasio is moving forward. The armies are comparable size. Macro has been good for the human player. Could add maybe more tech at this place, as I mentioned earlier. Maybe would be beneficial to have arbiter or carrier tech. Generally, ground versus ground army favors the Terran player, and that is why you would normally see those advanced technologies. But the push is on now. Maybe this is a macro practice or a warm-up for the human player, but the human player is a little slow to react. Nice storm on the vultures there. The other Templar does get sniped, but the Zealots do manage to get in thanks to that storm taking out those vultures, and now the human player is has a comfortable army lead, and Krasio seems to be like eager to attack despite the fact that it hemorrhaged so much army. Running in like this is kind of suicidal, and I think that the human player is kind of just letting it do that, maybe again just to practice its macro. Notably hasn't expanded to the bottom right yet, possibly due to the presence of vultures and mines there. So I'm anticipating that there's going to be a lot of engagements here. Zealots running in through the mines and taking out tanks as they go along. The human player does seem to be a little more eager to advance now, but now has made it all the way deep into the minefield where the density is much higher. Having lost all the Zealots, this is now a dangerous position. Ooh, would have been cool if there was mines here to slow down the retreat of the Dragoons, and that could have maybe led to some more losses. Excuse me. So coughing a lot today, a dry throat, maybe from the coffee that I drank earlier today. Anyway, Dragoons again pushing forward. This kind of like back and forth seems to be what's going to happen in this game, and no attempts to prevent prevent Krasio from expanding from the human side. No expansion for itself though. So yeah, my suspicion is this is just macro practice from the human player. But should be noted that they still are capped out at 180 supply. So I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. It doesn't seem to be something that I would do if I'm practicing macro. But continuously stemming the tide of t- the Terran army is the Protoss player, and the Protoss player is actually quite low on workers, 54. Later in PvT, it's not uncommon to see players go upwards of 70 workers. So maybe again might be something intentional, or maybe they are just just having fun. Um, Dragoons now pushing into the Terran base. They are not going to do well against these defensive formations, especially with the A move. They're tempted to attack the factory, the machine shop, and the siege tanks are in a good defensive position here, especially with the vultures covering the front. But now the Protoss has decided to finally take out Krasio's fourth base, and the Dragoons, well, they're chasing vultures now, so that's interesting. Still no expansion from the human player, and actually idle probes here as well. I'm hoping that's not due to bug, but I don't think it is. I think that then all new units would not be created, so I think this is just a human kind of lapsing in their macro. So maybe the situation is actually more desperate than we had initially assumed. Maybe this player is actually fighting for their life after a very passive opening. But they still do have a massive army advantage. That's something that um, is quite common in this matchup, and because of the fact that Krasio keeps losing their army piecemeal, they never get to that really scary critical mass of tanks. Like when you have two like control groups of siege tanks, two control groups of vultures, some Goliaths and science vessels, that would be an army that I think would be able to take out this Protoss army, again due to the lack of air presence. No shuttles, no arbiters, no carriers, a couple Templar here and there, but those have been sniped, and there's only one now. So maybe if Krasio does get up to a higher supply count, they would be able to do so. But again, pumping from just 5 factories on 4 bases, or well, technically 3, going on to 4 bases again, is, it's not optimal. I'm actually interested, where does Krasio spend all their money? I mean, they have 60 workers, 5 factories. I think you can justify way more factories with constant production. Maybe it's due to the fact that they're constantly repairing stuff or replacing buildings or something of that nature. But another these engagements are kind of proof of what I was talking about earlier, the fact that Protoss with just pure ground army, it's very difficult to actually kill a Terran. One could say almost impossible if the Terran is completely turtled up on their base here, especially with these nice high grounds on the sides. But the human player has also now decided to expand. We did see some probes leave and some more probes be produced. We're up to 62 workers. Nexi are idle, and yeah, the vultures are out there waiting for transfer laying some mines and stuff, but cannons, I'm guessing, are coming up here indeed. What is the upgrade situation? We have 3-2 and 3-3, and well, technically 3-2-1 for the Protoss player, soon to be 3-3-2, and 3-3 for the Terran mech player. And actually now another push is coming our way to the Protoss base. Let's see how this one goes. Still not that many siege tanks. I mean, if we look at the count, we have 13 siege tanks here and 20 vultures, but I don't see all of them on this screen, which means that it's not pushing with everything it has, which obviously you want to maybe leave like 1 or 2 siege tanks at home, but when you're putting so much pressure forward on the enemy base, they don't really have the resources in terms of military resources to be also doing a counterattack at the same time, especially with defensive placements that we saw earlier. But D-Matrix is now extending the life of the siege tanks and causing them to do even more damage, and the Protoss army now is actually starting to get rather thin. I mean, the Terran army has been whittled down as well. Still 20 Dragoons somewhere out on the map. I guess a bunch of them just popped out. 10 observers is definitely on the extreme side. We have like 2 flying here, we have another one here. Might be a bit excessive in this case. And actually both players are quite low on income now. I mean, if the Protoss player can't transfer all these probes out, it's going to be a little bit difficult. There's not that many probes here, I think. This base does still have a couple. This one has almost nothing. And don't tell me that Krasio might actually win this, simply due to the fact that oh, nope, there goes one of the probe transfers, so that's nice. Thankfully, the human player managed to get those over there. But yeah, the game is actually quite even at this point. I mean, there is still an army advantage for the human player. But with EMPs and D matrices going down, the army from Krasio is doing better and better with time, which is quite surprising to see. But then again, 3-3 mech is incredibly strong. Now observers are being taken down by Marines, and the push is on. I mean, this game could, in theory, keep going for a while. The Protoss player, I mean, the economy is back up and running now, but now Krasio is the one that's taking the bottom left side, so it's turning into a split map scenario. And once the Terran player gets this kind of choke, gets control over this choke, it's very hard for Protoss to move out for a similar reason that it's very hard for them to move into a Terran base. And the fact that it's been almost pure Dragoon production also makes it difficult to advance on this position. More armies should be coming forward though from Krasio. I'm not seeing 60 supply on the screen here. Would definitely like to see more. The Dragoons are trying to move forward piecemeal to snipe these siege tanks. They are the biggest threat here. Nice D-Matrix with the repairs on it as well, but that tank does end up going down. One tank, a couple of tanks actually now remaining, and yeah, the battle rages on. Siege mode now coming up, and okay, Dragoon count is falling. There's not much left. I mean, there are more zealots now, which is good against a tank-heavy composition. Still just observers, though, just pure gateways and observers. And maybe finally Krasio can get a foothold here, like a firm foothold. Yeah, it definitely seems like the case. The probes did manage to sneak by at the opportune moment, but with no production back there, it's going to be very difficult to do something about this forward Terran presence, you know, with a lack of a flanking army. We only have cannons here and a couple of Dragoons. And with Krasio taking more and more of the map, this game can continue. So let's see where it goes from here. Pushing into the main natural. This isn't that big of a loss considering the fact that there's no more resources there. I mean, collecting the gas is nice, but the Vespene Geyser is depleted. And now the Templar and the Dragoons get melted here. The Templar are by themselves. They're not going to be able to do much on their own. And yeah, well, that was an okay storm, nothing crazy. Another storm coming down. Decent storm, I think. Yeah, those are all injured, but now there's SCVs repairing the tanks, and it looks like the human player just taps out. So, big dub for Krasio there. And funnily enough, that came with the Protoss victory music, but unfortunately that was not a victory for our human player here. Props to Krasio. Maybe a little bit lax from the human player. Moving into the next game, we again have Krasio against a human Protoss player, this time on Fighting Spirit. Krasio spawning on the bottom left as the brown Terran, and Schnail spawning at the bottom right as the orange Protoss. So let's see how this game goes. I obviously can't tell you if it's the same player or not because of the anonymization factor, but it will be interesting to see. If we see a 12 Nexus here, that could be an indicator, but actually it looks like it's going to be an early scout, and oftentimes what that can imply is some form of cheese, like a gas steal, or, well, you wouldn't normally see a forward gateway after a pylon inside the main base, but the human player is going to find the Terran player first, so maybe gas steal, or actually no, harassing the SCV. But the SCV knows better, is going to run away now. One SCV has been pulled to chase the probe around. The probe thinks better of its current line of thinking, is going to attack the depot. It's going to try to block, blocks the wall off. Okay, so yeah, 5 SCVs pulled to kill the pylon may be a bit egregious. Definitely want to invest in a barracks when you have a chance. Maybe, yep, there's the barracks, that's good. But at least the human player has prevented a wall off for the time being. Not really taking advantage of that though. No zealot coming forward, it seems. Oh, I did not mean to narrow that. Okay, good. Pylon back here could be for scouting, could be for a forward robotics facility. That's a strategy that I like to use against Terran, especially here on Fighting Spirit. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. A lot of Terrans might not catch this one, though human players have been getting better and better at scouting it. I don't know if Krasio would scout up here. And yes, indeed, it is going to be a proxy robotics. This is often followed up by a shuttle and a Reaver. The Reaver having quicker access to the main base of the Terran opponent, therefore strikes often before turrets are up, because a lot of those timings are almost like predetermined, like you needed turrets by X point. And from what we know of Krasio does tend to play very defensive, early academy, early engineering bay, but might not be early enough. It'll be close. Still no engineering bay from the opponent. We are seeing the support bay now from the human player for those reavers. Another option, I forget if I mentioned it, is elevator. You can bring a bunch of dragoons over here and ferry them across here, and then when the reaver comes out, you go in with everything, and usually by this point, the Terran simply doesn't have enough to hold here. And that could be part of the thinking with the early harass there as well. Interesting and bold movement from the siege tank. You usually don't want to be exploring with just one siege tank like this. Losing early tanks is really, really painful. We do have one dragoon coming over here, probably to support the reaver. The reaver is going to be coming up well before turrets are up. We're just now adding the engineering bay. Yeah, indeed. So let's see what happens here. Reaver's coming in. Krasio getting caught with its pants down on this. Zealot, Reaver, but not great control from the human player so far. Took a bunch of hits from the siege tank, and the Reaver goes down very fast. I mean, there was a significant amount of eco damage there. I saw a couple SCVs go down, but if you look at the worker count, it's still the same. It seems that the human player maybe wasn't multitasking to the best of its ability, or it was, prioritizing building certain things first before it builds workers. So, for example, let's say you have 200 minerals, you're saving up 200 minerals to build that robotics facility as fast as possible instead of producing probes or army at that time. And this puts this expansion in jeopardy now, actually, because of the fact that Krasio is able to take this fairly aggressive position on the main base, on the natural of the opponent here. And this is a spot where maybe more caution is required. I mean, this is a great place for that siege tank, as you can tell by the fact that it is shooting at that dragoon. It's actually doing a lot of damage here. Taking down 2 dragoons here is big. But it looks like we have more things going on in the main base. Another Reaver has taken down a lot of workers. I'm sorry that I missed that. That's why the human player was not reacting there. APM might be high, but the multitasking is lacking, and it looks like the shuttle went down and then the Reaver follows shortly thereafter. But now Krasio's worker count has been halved. Krasio does have to catch up in economy, and there's another shuttle, there's another Reaver, so maybe the shuttle did survive, just decided to abandon the Reaver. Not sure if I like that decision. Oftentimes what you'll see the human player do is pull the shuttle and Reaver for a defensive maneuver here, because the situation is getting more and more dire. There are some pulled dragoons back. The shuttle almost runs into that turret. Now is going to circumnavigate it, try to find a way in, but there's another shuttle. Oh my god. Wow. Barely manages to drop that Reaver, and these SCVs need to run away. Ooh, big shots. Oh, big shots. 12 workers now versus 13. Using SCVs to fight Reavers not recommended here. 65 minerals only, so this is dangerous. Let's see what's happening over here. 4 siege tanks, mines, more gateways being added. Citadel of Adun is up. Reaver finally goes down, but as a result of the Reaver harass, the AI does not have a lot of production. So it's a desperate fight for both players here. The human player, I thought, would have been more advantaged here. Maybe refining their understanding of this build and their implementation of this build by using the AI on Schnell in order to do so. All the way into the Nexus now is Krasio here, and now probes are going down. But again, because of the lacking economy and the decision to fight Reavers with SCVs, leaving no defenses here, Krasio is forced to pull back with vultures again, which leaves the front exposed. I'm wondering if there's ever going to be a moment when the Protoss finally pulls the trigger. There is enough here, I think, to defend. Reaver is flying around, is going to try to... No, is going to go home. Is there a Reaver, actually? Yeah, there is a Reaver. Okay, and do we have anything aggressive here? There is another Reaver, actually. Maybe that is the Reaver. Let's see, army... Yeah, only one Reaver, so that just popped out. Finally, the push coming in, but the vultures are already back. The vultures are actually not engaging here. The siege tanks and the vultures go down, but not without significant losses from the human player. The human player is down to 9 workers. It's actually Krasio who's ahead in economy. And wow, yeah, we have a game on our hands. This might be one of the closer human versus AI games, especially in the early mid-game. You often see one or the other kind of take advantage of this stuff. And another Reaver coming in. Siege tank is at a perfect distance. SCVs not getting melted. Worker count still advantage Krasio 13 to 11. Behind this, it looks like the Protoss player is going to be trying to put down a Nexus to catch up in worker count. The main mineral line is quite sparse at this point. So much money has been spent on gateways and army that is no longer there, and of course Reavers. I think we've seen like at least 5 Reavers so far. So yeah, here comes another one. So relentless is this human player. And another attempt is going to be coming in. I would love to see more turrets from Krasio in response to the fact that there's shuttles out here. But now, oh, that SCV blocked the army from coming in. It seems like Krasio just isn't. I mean, the way that it's deciding to run away with its SCVs almost feels like it's doing more harm than good, losing like 5 per Scarab as it's doing so. Now Krasio is behind again in worker count, and at this point, like if we're progressing through the game at this rate, you know, like we're going to be here for a very long time, as one base after, you know, like gets mined out so slowly when you lose so many workers on both sides. But now an observer's out, going to help clear up anything in the front, going to maybe go for a killer blow, or at least tempted to do so. Observer is going to note that there are no mines, at least not here. The vultures are doing their little dance. Looks like the observer was tasked to follow the vultures. It is going to lose them. Nope, okay, it stops there. Keeping an eye on the back door. Another Reaver is being produced. Yeah, this human player has a singular determination as to what to do. Krasio seems like it's thinking about expanding. It only has 19 workers. It is behind again. Observer now coming forward. And this defensive position, I don't think that the human player has enough to penetrate it. Maybe with clever Reaver usage, we are seeing a Templar Archives being placed as well, trying to use some of that gas. Do we have any more? Yep, Stargate now. So going for 2-base Arbiter, except for like very late, I think. But that's kind of a consequence of the way that this game has been going. Let's see. Observer now flying into the natural to check everything, and yep, another Reaver coming in, gets caught by the shuttles, drops the Reaver, another bunch of SCVs lost, the tank goes down. 22 workers to 37 though. I think that Krasio should be able to hold at this point, and now Arbiter Tribunal coming out from the human player, making good on that 2-base Arbiter play. APM has dropped significantly though, so yeah, definitely maybe a player that is looking for more practice against non-human opponents to get their skills up, though the APM has shot back up, so maybe I don't know anything. Maybe I'm being too critical. Trying to push in now with pure Dragoons, I would say, is not recommended. Yeah, that's kind of the result you get. You lose free Dragoons, which, you know, not as big of a deal as losing tanks for free, but still pretty significant. Observers keeping tabs on the natural of the Terran player. Vulture might find the robot. No, it seems like no. But yeah, massive amounts of Zealous now being produced, and the first Arbiter. I'm guessing that there's going to be a recall on the main base, which might lead to this victory from the human player against Krasio, avenging the previous Protoss player that fell. But we also have a science vessel on the way. It's not going. I mean, it's going to come out after the Arbiter, but the Arbiter does need time to build up energy. Let's see what the research is. We are just now starting to get recall research. So, oh, we even have observer speed, and oh, we have Scarab damage. That might be also contributing to the fact that so many SCVs were going down with each volley there. But yeah, let's see how this progresses. Science vessel being out this early is a good sign for Krasio. And I mean, technically it's not early, it's the 20th minute of the game. But relative to its worker count, economy, and army, it is definitely on the earlier side. Still low SCVs on the main base, but that is to kind of be expected. Looks like an attempt for a third base is going to be coming soon from the human player. They are on only one mineral line again. I mean, both players are. Oh, ooh, okay, I'm not so sure about this move out here. This might be a risky situation. With no mines coverage, if the tanks get caught out before they're able to siege. And oh, but should be noted that the Arbiter does not have stasis. It has recall. Do we have stasis? Oh, okay, we do. We're about to have stasis. This might be a critical timing here. Stasis on this clump of tanks could be super useful. The Zealots get pulled into engagement early. Oh, massive opportunity for stasis. No, just a storm. Good storm choice though. There's a stasis on the science vessel. Nice decision there. And yeah, looks like the Protoss player is going to be barely able to push this back. I mean, then again, there is still quite a number of siege tanks here. Now it's mostly Dragoons and Templar. Ooh, the Dragoons go down. Is the human player going to give up here after this? Oh my god, so many losses here. Yeah, I mean, now there's only Arbiters on the field. There's only one mineral line. There's no third base. The human player seems to have fallen off in terms of macro throughout that. No army behind this, and yeah, this is looking dangerous now. Production has been definitely inconsistent at best from the human player, keeping a shuttle here, maybe to do some zealot bombs. But yeah, this push now with so many siege tanks here is going to be incredibly difficult to stop with limited production and economy. Immediate reaction from Krasio to defend against this, and yeah, wow, I can't believe I can't believe that just happened. That's what happens when you throw away half your army, I guess. So that makes sense to me. Anyway, moving into our last game of the day, we have the return of the fabled Mana, the person that people hypothesized might be the pro gamer Mana. Uh, I am not convinced at this point. I mean, we do have a significant spam at the start of the game, but Mana did spell their name a bit differently, and we haven't seen any indicators as far as I know that they're playing Brood War right now. Maybe they're keeping on the DL, but at the same time, Mana, pretty common name. Mana themselves spawning at the top left of Fighting Spirit here as the red Protoss, and Krasio spawning as the brown Terran at the top right. And if I'm not mistaken, Krasio has been the brown Terran, I think, in all 3 games, which is interesting. So let's see what the build orders are going to be here. Seems like Mana is going to be saving up money for a 12 Nexus, but this time, is Krasio going to scout this early enough? It seems like maybe... Nope. Bad luck for Krasio, going to be cross scouting. It's going to be interesting to see if they do this way and then go find the Nexus or not. But Mana, I don't get this decision to leave the probe here though, honestly. Maybe is around to prevent any sort of bunker rush. Maybe it's been bunker rushed by an AI before. Okay, pylon. Yeah, I usually prefer to use this probe to mine and then go back and place the gateway. But maybe decided that scouting is important here. And the second pylon also indicates to us that it is going to be at least one zealot first. Probe does find the enemy. See, this kind of slowish reaction time makes me think that it's not a pro gamer, but who knows. Cyberknife's Core is on the way, and actually no zealot yet, interestingly enough. I don't think that second pylon was absolutely necessary in that case. If you look at the supply here, 19 out of 34. Definitely not the cleanest build out of our supposed pro gamer, but second gateway now on the way. And third gateway as well. Dragoon, no Dragoons yet. And yeah, so I'm really actually kind of confused about what's going on here. We definitely wanted to see Dragoons by now. I mean, it's a risky situation to not be producing army here. Even if you go up to 4 gateways and produce 4 Dragoons at once, a human player would have come in and pooped all over this by now with a bunker rush or maybe a vulture. 3 Dragoons now coming up for Mana here. Very, very unconventional approach to the 12 Nexus, but Krasio, as seems to be the norm, is very content to focus on their own situation. Didn't even take a command center yet, actually. Instead opted again for the academy opening, and I'm guessing an engineering bay. Yeah, engineering bay is on the way. Now double forge from the... What is this? I mean, I've heard of people going for double forge play. I know that CPL player Evil Eye is a fan of the double forge PvT approach, but definitely not a conventional approach, and you'd almost never see it with this few gateways in this early in the game, as far as I know. Maybe this is just, again, macro practice, trying to get to a point where it's going to be consistent pump of units against a Terran opponent that has not, I don't want to say perfect unit control, but consistently is controlling their army throughout the game. So Dragoons are kind of held back here. Normally you might expect to see them like more over here, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be another PvT with Krasio. This time, obviously no Reaver Harass. We are getting the armory added now, so +1 is going to be on the way soon. I'm guessing we have double upgrades coming in for the Protoss player. Indeed, the Protoss player is going to try to go for a bust and does manage to snipe. This is a dangerous spot to be in if you're Terran. Sorry that I missed that. Okay, choosing not to keep pushing in there. I think that is probably the right call there. Not aware of how much defense there is behind. You know, just another siege tank popping out could have been fatal, but I'm not sure about this decision to move forward with the siege tanks either, Krasio. No! The siege tank gets blocked out by its own barracks. And yeah, this is a tough situation to be in for a Terran player who has lost all their siege tanks. The Marines and Bunker barely holding on now, but definite advantage to the human player mana with a third base on the way. Citadel of Aduna is finished, but no attempts to go into higher tech as of yet, despite banking up quite a significant amount of gas. Adding a couple cannons as well here, it seems. Looks like for this expansion, which is not a bad call. Factory, factory. I don't know why I said that. 3 factories in the main base. Let's see the gateway count. 4 gateways could definitely do with a couple more, I think. Worker count, advantage Krasio, despite some losses that may have occurred here. So mana may be falling behind on the production despite getting that earlier Nexus and the earlier third base. So economy probably advantage Krasio. Army advantage though significantly mana due to all those early siege tank losses. Many Terrans might not even play on in that situation after losing so many siege tanks, and I'm still not sure whether mana decided to have like some mercy on the AI here by pulling back. I think that running in could have been an option. Maybe this is the safer play, you know, like just in case. Another expansion coming up here. Looks like maybe 2 expansions planned. Engineering Bay in the meantime is going to scout Mana's base, and yeah, let's see what happens next here. Looks like Krasio is shoring up their defenses on the back end. Is that yeah, that was the bunker, and actually a third base command center coming up now, and siege tanks are slowly moving forward, going to start pushing these dragoons back. Still no zealots. So our army count we have at what, 35 dragoons. Yeah, definitely after 2 sets of dragoons you want to, well, 2 groups of dragoons, you definitely want to transition into zealots so that they can run through minefields and get on top of the siege tanks. But pure dragoon I don't think is going to win here. We do have a Templar Archives up now, even with the superior upgrades that they probably have. 2-2 already up for the Protoss, and adding plasma shields, which is an unconventional choice. Only 2 attack. Oh, but wow, the Dragoons actually I'm sorry that I keep missing things. They found the expansion attempt, but they're going to lose their lives for trying to stop it. And oh man, so many Dragoons going down there, and now the push is maybe more viable for Krasio. Army counts are equal, Krasio on superior economy, and wow, more Dragoons going down. So yeah, I think that Krasio has a great chance here now. Still no tech from the Protoss player, which seems to be kind of the theme here. I mean, although the one game we saw with Arbiters ended kind of in tragedy, Dragoons are in separate groups but not all engaging at once, trying to go for a concave. Maybe this is Mana's just playing for fun and wants to see if they could win with pure Dragoon, but I don't think that was a wise option right now. I mean, significant losses for the Terran, but even more significant losses for the Protoss player, and the gateway count isn't high enough to replace those losses fast enough. The push is now continuing from Krasio. If Krasio makes it to that bridge area, could be pretty significant losses here. But the Dragoons are moving forward, trying to take out the siege tanks one by one. They are successful so far. SCVs are trying to repair. They do manage to save that tank. And yeah, I think that there might just not be enough production here for Mana to stay alive. No expansion here as well yet, only a 4th base on the high ground. And yeah, man, so many Dragoons went down. And Mana looks like they've given up 0 APM. They had the rally point set forward. They're not controlling their Dragoons well at all. And yeah, this might be a little... I thought that Mana's position was much stronger, but the decision to go for pure Dragoons was a mistake. I mean, clearly intentional, but still definitely a mistake as well. This shows you that mono-type play is not going to be the solution to a mixed Terran composition. And yeah, now there's a lot of workers going down. Krasio ahead in both army and workers, and Mana periodically falling to 0 APM. Not interested in playing. We even have a Wraith now, possibly to hunt observers. Dragoons falling behind, going to try to prevent the army from climbing the ramp. Only one siege tank is sieged up, the other one is kind of dancing around. Mines are going to take down some of the Dragoons there. Adding more gateways in the back is Mana. Still decided to actually try fight on, it seems. Engineering base goes down, so no more vision on the high ground. And siege tank count is quite low. I don't know where all of Krasio's army is. It says that there's 70 army, but I don't see it anywhere. Okay, alright, never mind. There's a bunch of it over here. And again, pure Dragoons are not going to be the answer in this situation. Let's see how the push continues. Is Krasio aware of this base? I think should be. The mines would have probably seen some transfers and movements here. But oh yeah. Oh, what a timing on that D-Matrix though. Oof. Yeah, that's going to be a rough proposition for Mana to try to stop with pure Dragoon. Supply now more than double supply advantage for Krasio. The gateways in the back have not been constantly producing, so no chance of saving there. And 4 bases now for Krasio. I like this decision expanding to the middle, actually. This is something that you used to see more often, but that's mostly due to the fact that Fighting Spirit is shaped this way. And it looks like Mana is not aware of that, is going to look for an expansion here, not going to find one, is instead going to walk into some mines. I don't know the purpose of this move, maybe just to see how far behind they are at this point, and the answer is significantly. Um, but yeah, well done, Krasio. Want to see it pull the trigger. Definitely struggling with making it up the ramp. It wants to siege up in range of these gateways, I believe, and as a result, it sieges up right on the ramp, preventing the push from coming in, and then the Dragoons run in and snipe that tank, and then the tanks are forced to pull back. But there's such a significant army presence here that I think that, I mean, 120 army to 30 supply army, yeah, there's just no chance for this Protoss player at this point. Even if the siege tanks never make it up the ramp, the ramp will never be retaken by Protoss either. Probes are trapped and stranded there. Production, I mean, there is 4 Dragoons probably being produced from here, I would guess. It seems, let's find out if my guess is correct. Yep, indeed, human tactics, producing from 1 base. So yeah, it's hard to tell when the player is not playing seriously, clearly, but my assumption is that this is not the pro gamer Mana. It's just a person with a very similar name. But now pushing into the middle, and actually the Dragoon count did rise here. I'm not sure if this is going to be enough to keep the Protoss player in the game. Losing this base is not that significant of a loss for Krasio, although to be fair, there is only really 1 mineral line besides these 2. Oh, nope, I lied, there's one over here as well. Looks like Krasio is going to be advantaged here. Oh, going for this expand. I'm not sure about this move. There is a significant amount of Dragoons here, so that means that, I was going to say they might be able to stop all the mines, but not when they're on the high ground like this. And oh my god, no observers either. Yeah, this was not your best day, Mana, I'm sorry. Let's see. No D-Matrix, probably no energy on the Science Vessel. Dragoons continue to go forward. Lapse and macro again from Mana, and yeah, I think that the human player is going to call GG's after this one. Maxed out is Krasio's 55 supply for Mana, and yeah, GG. And that brings us to the end of today's broadcast. Sorry for cutting it a bit short. I am horribly sleep deprived, and I have a flight in a couple hours, so I am going to cut it short here. Do want to thank you for your patience. Not getting a couple of weeks of broadcasts leading up to this, but again, I'll do my best to keep them coming until the return of our regular caster, Nightcat. Nightcat taking a break for an indeterminate amount of time, so I can't promise you when they will return, but hopefully I will see you next time on the SSCAIT Report. Thank you. Stay healthy, stay happy, keep your loved ones close, and don't give up on your dreams. Take care.